Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the globe. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our YPO Presents Ask the Experts. My name is Riad Bsaibes. I'm the President and CEO of AMANA Investments, and I'm a member of the YPO Dubai Integrators. And I'm joined today by two remarkable leaders, Dr. Ayesha Khanna and Mr. Abdullah Azhari. Ayesha is dialing in from Singapore, and Abdullah from Saudi Arabia. And together, the three of us hopefully will delve into the evolving landscape of urban developments and explore the role of technology in designing and managing cities for the benefit and quality of life of citizens. So welcome, Aisha, and welcome, Abdullah, to the webinar today.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Riad.
Aisha,
Thank you,
perhaps
Riad.
you can start off. Aisha, I know you co-founded a very fantastic and exciting company called Addo, global data and AI solutions consulting firm. Perhaps you can tell us a bit more about it yourself.
Yes, absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here today. So at Addo, we are AI native engineers, which means that my co-founder and I have started a firm where we have been working ourselves on artificial intelligence for several decades. And now we help very large enterprises and governments plan an AI strategy and then implement a roadmap of AI interventions that makes them more efficient, more productive, and more profitable. And we have been lucky enough to work with some of the largest telecommunications, logistics, financial services, and healthcare companies in Asia and in the United States. And now we are also expanding to the Middle East, which is very exciting.
Apologies, technology again.
No problem.
Issues.
So,
So
Riad,
I might have
I
missed
just,
Aisha, your introduction.
yes, I gave my introduction, but I think Abdullah can kind of carry on with his now.
Sure.
Yes,
I'll go ahead. So my
Abdullah,
name
would
is
you like to
Abdullah
introduce
Azhari.
yourself and your firm?
Yes, yes, of course. My name is Abdullah Azhari. Thank you for having us today, and I thank YPO for organizing this. And I'm glad to be joined by remarkable leaders such as Riyadh and Aisha on this discussion. So I'm based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I'm sitting actually in my office in Riyadh on King Fahd Road. I joined YPO about 2 years ago in the Levant chapter. And I I started and I run today Saudi Icon Company. We're a construction group comprising about 2,000 employees, focused on the Saudi market. And we serve mainly private sector, semi-government, and public investment fund clients such as NEOM, Red Sea, Roshan, and so on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abdullah. Can I ask you, is my voice coming through okay, or is it choppy? I'm not sure about my connection. Can you hear
It's
me
good
well,
for
Aisha?
me.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
It works also for me. It works good for me as well.
Okay, maybe my on this end. So for those with us on the call who are not familiar with the YPO, YPO is a global leadership community composed of well over 35,000 executives, mostly at the CEO level and equivalent from across the world. We boast over 150 countries within the community, and we have a shared belief in the requirement or the need to have a better world through leadership. One of the benefits of being a member, of course, is the opportunity to connect with like-minded people like Aisha and Abdullah with us on the call today and exchange ideas on a first basis between each other. Before we get started, we'd like to remind everyone watching live that you can ask our guests questions by posting them in the comment section, which is below, and we'll answer them as the time permits. And what we'll try to do with the questions is lump them toward the end and answer them as a group so that we don't interrupt the flow of the discussions, if that works with everyone. So with that in mind, maybe let's set the stage for our audience with some high-level observations on some current technological trends that are shaping city developments and urban developments. And maybe first I'll go to you, Abdullah. From your perspective, what are some of notable and interesting tech trends that you're seeing in the urban development sector?
Well, there are many interesting trends happening, and they're happening at a remarkable fast pace. There are good examples of companies run by fellow YPO members that are the forefront of adapting such technologies, and I'll mention a few a bit later. So I would say utilizing modular construction basically as a process and powered by technology is a major new trend, and I believe you can also talk about that a little bit as your company do pod and can demonstrate basically. Some of the technologies are also digital twins, which is a huge new platform and a huge new process basically that as a topic, it's as big as you could say compared to the metaverse, with a tremendous amount of applications. It's a very early, or relatively early technology that has huge potential. Of course, building information modeling (BIM) is catching significant traction in the last few years, and that technology has still very powerful applications that are still not yet completely implemented across the industry. And I would, mention, of course, artificial intelligence is now used more and more in construction, helping architects and designers and developers create models and shots basically of projects at a very fast pace. So yeah, these are to name a few.
Mhm. If I heard you, Abdullah, right, and sorry, it's coming choppy to me, but I heard you talk about digital twins, the use of perhaps BIM and digital twins for buildings
Yes.
and for certainly for urban developments. I know we use it internally within our company, BIM, which stands for Building Information Management, and it's really a way to capture all the data of a building within one model that can collaborate with others across the whole supply chain. And we use it definitely within our platform for modular and volumetric construction, DoBox and DoPod. And certainly, if it wasn't for advances in technology, in computing, and in software, volumetric modular would not be possible. We know that we started 12 years ago, and we've seen a bigger traction now as technology and computers get faster, and you're able to use BIM models more and more pervasively in our modular platform. So absolutely. Perhaps if we switch gears, Aisha, and we go to you, and on your end, what tech trends are you seeing in the urban development landscape from where you sit?
So we are finding at Addo, we are finding that when we advise governments and we've worked with ministries of health, ministries of finance in different countries, we are seeing the use of artificial intelligence and data to improve access to basic services. So, for example, we worked with the health ministry of one country to actually develop a command center, and that allowed them to isolate and identify if there was going to be a pandemic, because they had data coming in from pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, planes that were landing, the dense network of urban connectivity. And we were able to tell them, based on this data, where they should have a smart lockdown or not. So what we're seeing now is we could tell them which, using sensors and data, which hospitals were occupied and which were going to be free in real time, so that they could go ahead and send disaster recovery individuals and officers, take people in ambulances to the right place. So more and more we're seeing for the first time government agencies, and we work with clients across all government agencies, are now using data and artificial intelligence to create more operational efficiency and more cheaper, more democratic access to services, whether it's education or in Africa, for example, we have a partner and we're working on telehealth with them, with the government, supported by agencies such as the World Bank or the IFC or the IMF, where we created a telemedicine platform, and that was able to provide telemedicine and using AI personalized nudges in behavioral health to individuals. I think this really moves the needle. And it moves the needle in logistics if you're doing smart traffics and smart route optimization. We work with the Singapore's largest public transportation system. My own PhD is in smart transportation with AI. So you can go vertical by vertical, whether it's security or ports or education or healthcare. And you see that government officials are really intelligent and have a lot of foresight. And they're prioritizing data and analytics to drive better urban infrastructure and better urban experiences.
Mhm. And I want to double click on that, Aisha, and ask you, given your background, as you mentioned, in data analytics and AI, how can data analytics and AI contribute to more sustainable, more efficient urban planning and urban management? You touched a bit
Well,
on that, perhaps, but maybe you can
yeah, no,
give us a bit
absolutely.
more.
So thank you, Riad. Sustainability is very important. And there are a couple of ways. Some are in the way you build things, like Abdullah was saying. And if you look at just construction, and we know a large part of the developing and emerging markets are actually having huge amounts of construction, then smart and intelligent buildings is incredibly important because they have a software through which, using artificial intelligence, they can better manage the energy usage and optimize it. And they can predict when somebody's going to be in a certain part of the building and how the energy should be managed. And they can actually alert someone if there's going to be a predictive maintenance problem or not, so that you always have your energy at an optimal level. I'm on the board of Johnson Controls. It is at the forefront, one of the largest companies in the US working on this, on smart and healthy buildings. And they're at the forefront of creating the kind of platform where you get information. So AI and analytics is all about data. You get data from your HVAC chillers. You get data from your lighting system. You get data from your solar panels. You get data from all the electrical sockets that you have. And then you have data about how much occupancy you have and what's the historical occupancy you've had. And that gives you an ability to optimize energy usage. So that's one thing. And the other example I'd give is traffic management, logistics management. So after buildings, actually traffic, cars, logistics, they contribute a lot to climate change and an unsustainable urban environment. So if you can create the ability to make public transport much more easier and diverse, light rail available, and using artificial intelligence actually nudge people to personalize their route, which is what we worked on in Asia, then they can choose whether to walk a certain bit if they want to get their steps in, and then they can actually take a taxi, and after that they can take the subway, and it's all part of one seamless experience, what they called mobility as a service. So I just want to give you two examples of two different sectors. One is construction, infrastructure, and the other is transportation. And both significantly can bring down the impact of climate change on urban environments through data and AI.
I see. Thank you, Aisha. And that gives us the big picture from a city planning. If we zoom into the construction process itself, Abdullah, And as construction projects are demanded to be faster and with a lower environmental impact, footprint, and so on, from where you stand, how do you see the application of technology in making the process more efficient from a construction point of view?
So, I mean, I'll deep dive a little bit on modular construction and how modular construction basically can make the process efficient on multiple levels. So, modular, or sometimes referred to as offsite construction, is basically taking construction from the standard way of doing it, which is doing it in construction sites, to doing construction in controlled environment, which is more on a factory site, basically. And there are a number of advantages of doing or moving construction to that kind of process, which are you have more efficiency basically in terms of the availability of resources. You require typically much less resources in terms of supervisory resources and also manpower. I mean, if you have, let's say, a factory that's building your construction components, you'll need less on a typical construction site, which is the case in my company today. We have or in a typical construction company, I would say, we have, let's say, 10 active construction sites. We need supervisors for every trade on every site. We need engineers for every trade on every site. We need quality controllers. We need safety teams. We need a whole lot of different staff. If we move this process, let's say, and we put it on a site, and we design a construction modular way where the site is focused on the assembly of modular parts, you eliminate a significant part of the cost or the requirement for all these staff members that are required to be at every site. So this is one way to be efficient. And think of and this is actually especially useful when you are working in remote areas. We are delivering some projects in remote areas in Saudi Arabia, on some islands in the Red Sea, and the process is so manpower intensive and so really is very difficult because in one of the projects that we have there's almost 20,000, not our workers, but we have a total of more than 20,000 people that are moving to the island on a daily basis, and these 20,000 people are housed in accommodations in a remote area, and there are just think of the time and cost and carbon effect of transporting all the materials and having to house all these people in offsite areas. We have to cook for all these people and to take them every day in a ferry to the site, which takes time. And by applying, let's say, a modular process, if you can reduce 10% efficiency, 20%, 30%, you'll come out as a winner, and the environment will come out as a winner. So I was just last week in Portugal. I visited a company owned and run by a fellow YPO member, the company called the Grupo Casais in Braga, near Porto, and they are really innovating in using modular technology, and they're focusing on building 2D building modules, and mainly for interior construction. So they are using BIM technology, using Revit, using digital twin technology to design the building in a way where you have a large number of 2D models, basically, that are completely built off-site in a factory environment, shipped on site, and assembled in a very short period of time. So not only it gives you efficiency in the carbon sense, but also gives you efficiency with time. A project that would take, a hotel project in Saudi Arabia, if you ask developers, it's a 5-year cycle. Using modular technology, again, you can shorten that cycle from the acquisition of land to the completion of the project to about 2 years. So also has, gives financial incentives to investors and improved IRRs. So there are many benefits to modular technology in construction, and I just wanted to name a few.
There we go. I'm not sure. I lost the connection. I'm not sure if the same happened on your end or not.
We're good. We lost him for a bit,
I
Aisha.
think so. Yeah. I
Did you see
actually,
that? I
I
mean,
can. Oh, there. Yeah.
why? Yeah, he's back.
Hi.
Okay.
Here we go.
I was going to
So
tell you there's a
we talk about
commercial
technology and we can't even
done by
communicate. This from
Neom
my
a
side.
few weeks. Well, I was saying there's a commercial done by
Yeah.
Neom a few weeks ago. It came out, and the focus on the commercial was basically how the calls, how Neom will change the world by ensuring that the internet will be so stable that we'll have no interruptions on calls. It's a very basic requirement, but still an issue clearly.
I think it's
Yeah.
very important, to be honest. That's how global
It's
business is done. Riad, please, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
it's certainly a law that we're all familiar with called. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear
We're
you.
giving you
It's certainly a law that we
the
all.
lead back.
I can see and hear everyone. Okay, so I think we're back online. I was just mentioning how we are experiencing the biggest law of them all, called the Murphy's Law, where everything goes wrong at the worst time. So on your point, Abdullah, I think I heard you mentioning modular, and absolutely, it's to your point about the advantages of modular. We see it personally in my company because we do have a significant investment in modular, and the advantages really are it makes the construction process much more efficient. We use 40% less time, and on a project we deliver it 30% faster, and certainly the quality is much better because it's done in a factory environment as opposed to a construction site. But on the other hand, though, the disadvantage of modular, for example, is that the client has to pre-agree on all the finishing at the beginning of the project, as opposed to sort of changing their mind in the middle. So there are some challenges when technology
You
is
know,
introduced. And with that, I'd like to maybe point that
what's
question to you, Aisha, from where you stand. What kind of challenges do you see when technology is incorporated into city planning and construction?
Thank you, Riad, for that question. I think, look, the first problem that we see is that people don't know where to begin. There's so much hype about data and intelligence, especially. They don't understand how should they even begin to think about it. And every agency, urban development agency or private company that is supporting the urban environment needs to think about it from a business first angle. So what we do at Addo is we go through this exercise of an AI strategy, just lasts a few weeks. And we say, these are your goals, your business goals, your pain points. These are the things you struggle with. And now this is your technical capability, your data capability. So we first identify what their goals are. And then the second thing that we do is that we evaluate and assess their current data and their systems. Do they have access to the data that they need? Is it easily accessible? Are they easily integrated? And then we are able to give them a roadmap. Every 3 months, they should see some progress, some AI intervention that brings them relief from a pain point. And without that roadmap, they really can't go forward. And that's the number one challenge. But even before you start a roadmap, you need an executive session. So a lot of what my team and I do, and we're doing that for private equity firms, we're doing that for global enterprises, we're doing it for governments, is taking the time to explain how artificial intelligence can benefit their organization, a tailored education, systematic way for them to understand. The biggest challenge is that the technology is not the challenge. Yes, it takes time. Your data is not of good quality. It's all over the place. But if you have your own expert team or expert advisors, such as Addo, which is us, then it's totally possible to address it. But if you don't understand, there's resistance and there's fear of using artificial intelligence. And helping people, helping everyone, all the executives, the board, the chief executive officer through that journey is a critical part that most people don't realize.
Interesting. And then, Abdullah, if I point the same question to you and ask, what challenges are you seeing with the adoption, uh, and what guidance would you have to city planners or to
Well, I
construction
would say
companies and professionals in general?
I think what Aisha said was great insight, because it always is a problem with people, and the ability for people to not really understand the technology, but to adopt it into their busy lifestyles. And everybody, change is the hardest thing, even though it's the most constant thing and the only certain thing about life. It's actually the hardest thing for people to do. But I mean, and I would also touch on what you said, Riyadh. Moving on the modular construction part, moving to a modular process means basically that building a building or a project is more like buying a car. If you customize the car before it goes into production, you have to select the leather, the finishes. You cannot change your mind, and you have to basically specify every single detail before the order is released to the factory. And to achieve the full benefits of modular construction, the approach has to be similar to that. And that's a big challenge in the mindset of the construction industry: architects, developers, consultants. Everybody likes to change, and they sometimes, and more often actually than not, they leave decision making till later stages. And again, moving to a modular world, it requires a seismic shift in the approach to the construction industry, which I think is exciting actually, because it's the future. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think as probably one of the biggest challenges that I know that we faced in the adoption of modular in the market is to change the clients or the stakeholders' modus operandi. It's difficult to implement change in general, and it's just to get them to change to adopt the change. It takes time and takes a few examples at the beginning until there's more normal adoption within the sector. And part of that, sometimes, if it's data implementation, is the governance of the data and the trust in the governance of the data. And in our age where
Of course.
data is on everywhere all the time, sometimes perhaps at the expense of privacy and so on, it becomes also the regulation or the governance of the data becomes a big topic, and especially when it comes to urban planning and urban developments. Aisha, would you like to comment a bit on that, on the governance of data on an urban planning, urban development setting?
Yes, absolutely. And this is really
And
becoming a very big question in how to govern data. Data is considered a national asset now by countries, by regions, by sectors. So, a couple of things. Number one, the most important thing is, does the city have a data governance framework? If the city doesn't, then does the agency have it? Because somebody needs to have an approach towards it. And that means, number one, you have to prioritize privacy and data protection. That is a citizen's right. So you have to implement measures to ensure the privacy of citizen data. Secondly, you have to make sure that you have a way, and I and my team especially, we look at artificial intelligence and data, that the data feeding your AI models is not biased. That means that it is not going in some wrong direction. It is not against a particular ethnicity, a minority, or gender, or any kind of group in the country. And so those also need to be put in place. Now, some countries have privacy laws because after the European Union, they are quite particular about data privacy laws. But AI laws are just coming up. We saw the European Union has an AI Act. President Biden has released guidelines. And in a place like Singapore, where I'm right now, the government has actually released a toolkit. And they have said that this is a toolkit that any company can download, and we are also helping companies download it and use it, and then they can analyze if their models are actually biased or not biased, if they're ethical or not ethical. Because the last thing you want is that your data and your AI models are actually manipulating your citizens or giving bad advice or telling them to take loans, so or giving or selling information to private companies. So you need data governance tools and technologies to actually enable this. Now that's again, that is the framework part, the policy part. Now comes implementation. How are you going to do that? And again, you'd be surprised at how much time we spend with government agencies, with our global corporate clients, even with smaller companies, to teach everyone data literacy. Without understanding data and its potential and its risks, it's very hard to have a proper framework. So we have data literacy workshops, we appoint data governance leaders. Addo has been asked many times to help interview and even step in as temporary chief data officers so that data governance initiatives align with the organization's strategic goals. And I would just say that this is something, it's a moving target. So I would say anybody who thinks this is a nice to have, that is not the case. It is now becoming a question of compliance. If you don't do it, you can be fined up to 6% of your annual revenue in Europe. And there's similarly stringent guidelines coming everywhere from China to the US to other countries as well.
I see. Thank you, Aisha. Abdullah, would you like to comment on your end, especially if you want, with the use of BIM and so on, the data is there for all stakeholders in a collaborative environment. Do you have any comments on data governance, transparency, and so on, from where you
Well,
stand?
on yeah, a couple of things. It's very important again that the provided data is transparent. But as Aisha also mentioned, the governance is very also important. There has to be clear guidelines of how data is transferred and used. And but of course, governments, even though a lot of governments, I believe, are different parts of the world, there are different ways how to do it. So in our part of the world, I would say the governance is slightly different than Europe and maybe North America's. But so the transparency of data is very important on one side. On the other side, when the source of data is the private sector, the, the, accessing the data becomes not so easy because private sector companies understand that data equals money, and there is a big monetization value of data, and that also is something that requires, I believe, additional governance because for data to be useful, it needs to be accessible from many different platforms. And this is something where I want to talk a little bit about, or here I want to talk a little bit about digital twin technology. So digital twin technology, I'm going to simplify it for people that don't understand it. Let's say, imagine a building, a tower that is designed through building information modeling. So it's a model that's available. The model is then transferred to the digital twin environment, and from the operating systems of the building, such as the building management systems, you can have on the digital twin platform, you can have different data points about the building. Now, where it gets interesting is when you can access additional data metrics, such as traffic metrics for different residents of, imagine that, for different basically users of the building. If you get their data metrics from where they are coming from and how much time it's taking them to come to the building, you add that weather metrics, you add that, you add to that weather metrics, you add to that small example. Let's say if you have air filtration unit in somebody's office. So the reading on that, and as you start to aggregate data and aggregate additional data on a digital twin platform, and then you start to analyze it, then you have very interesting insights. And but again, this only can be possible if the data is available, and if that, and most of the data is actually comes from the private, I believe, comes from the private sector. So having that kind of governance where the platforms are able to gather data efficiently is very important.
Mhm. Thank you there, Abdullah. We're at the 40-minute mark. We have questions coming through. Thank you. Please keep on putting the questions. This is a remark to the audience so that we can address the questions maybe perhaps in about 5 or 10 minutes from now. But keep them coming, please. With that, maybe if we can switch a bit topics and maybe ask you more on the experience, perhaps on the experience of using technology for the end user, whether the end user is the citizen that's walking the streets, whether the end user is the tenant in the apartment or the guest in a hotel room. And what I'm curious to see what's your approach to enhancing the experience of that user, and if you have any comments on that front. Perhaps Abdullah first.
Sure. So this is a very interesting question. It's very important also because there's, I mean, use of data will certainly change, will completely change the customer experience at many different levels. And I'll give you some examples of how can that happen. I mean, today in transportation, everybody uses Google Maps or Waze to tell you where to go and how much traffic is. But I believe today there is very little integration of predictive data to tell you to advise you where how to avoid the traffic and how to to plan your routes. So that's one way to look at it. Another way, imagine in a platform like Google Map or Waze integrating data from other sources. So from construction sites or from other typical sources. Now for Google Map is basically the phones to measure traffic. But imagine you add to that other sources of data, like I said, weather or live data from construction sites. You'll be able to drive the customer experience in a more efficient way. Another example would be the hotel industry or the hospitality industry. You can potentially, or use data to design specific itineraries for tourists to visit a city, taking into account live data of related to traffic, related to what's open and what's not, related to best route to imagine to take like a three to visit three sites basically in one day, taking into account live data and AI. AI will be able to drive for you an efficient itinerary, taking all these different data points into account. And it could be the same also for a hotel guest staying in a hotel, where you can also there will be optimization on both ends to the customer and to the hotel. So if you are getting additional data from a hotel room basically on noise, on energy consumption, and that data is provided to the customer when they're booking a room. Let's say if you tell the customer that room 405 on that floor has 20% more energy efficiency than the other room because of the sun direction or whatever, and then if the hotel can charge additional money for a client to book that room. So you're adding different layers basically of service that was never there to enhance the customer experience. So, and I'm sure Aisha will have great examples too on
Interesting.
that.
Yeah. Perhaps, Aisha, if I turn the discussion to you
Yeah.
and your experience or comments on enhancing perhaps the overall citizens' experience, because you look at the overall city, perhaps, or the user of technology per se.
I completely agree with everything Abdullah said. I mean, it is transformative when you can use artificial intelligence and data to provide more efficient and personalized service. So in Singapore, I'm on the board of Health Promotion Board, which is part of the Ministry of Health of Singapore. And one of the things that we as a country have done is that we have created an active health 365 app. And in that, you can upload and find all your health information. And then it actually gives you behavioral nudges on how to be healthier because we are an aging society. And we are very keen that we adopt healthier lifestyle, preventative screenings, and also eat better and exercise more. So, how can you, it's a small country, it's only 5 million people. But this is an example of personalizing healthcare for every single citizen. Plus, you have very easy, you have something called Sync Pass, which allows you, you don't even have to carry your ID anywhere. You just go and tap in your mobile phone. You have access to every single government service in one portal. So single sign on. And everything is integrated, exactly as Abdullah was saying. If it's not integrated, then it's a very siloed, personalized experience. So even in siloed, every agency can at least take care of their citizen experience. And we've done that. We have worked on citizen experience in healthcare, which was very transformative in one of our clients. Or if you are looking at it as a region or as a government, you can actually provide a single sign on and then connect all the dots, whereby you could even be told in Singapore, the vision was to have a personal AI assistant that gives you everything from the moment you are born. So everything that tells you your child is born, please don't forget the immunizations. Please don't forget the preschool here. Don't forget this is the preschools near you, all the way till you're, ready to pass on. And the government will provide you templates for your will and everything else and estate planning. So that lifelong journey of an AI assistant. And I just want to point out, all of this was being done before ChatGPT. The difference now is that when the chatbot talks to you, it's not boring, fragmented, disconnected. It's actually speaking in natural language. And every country from Saudi Arabia to Singapore to China is making large language models in its own languages so that your personal assistant from the government can understand all the vernacular and the particular idiosyncrasies of your own culture and language. And I think that's a really beautiful way of supporting citizen experience.
Mhm. I think, Aisha, if I heard you well there, you alluded to or spoken about cognitive cities in a way, cities that would understand the behavior or the wants of the people. Can you shed a bit more light about that and perhaps talk about implementation of anything in that direction?
So we were talking about NEOM earlier. NEOM, and I'm on the board of Autonomous, which is the software and robotics and AI arm of NEOM. And the CEO, Joseph Bradley, is fantastic. And he's been talking a lot precisely about this, like that NEOM is a cognitive city. A smart city is something like that we studied like 10 years ago, right? It started, it's all about operational efficiency. It's all about like traffic management. It's all about energy management. But cognitive city is real time. It's adaptive to people's behavior. It's personalized. It's not just about efficiency, it's about equality of life. And the key over there is that the city is really meant for you. It not only functions better for everyone, but then it is really, if you go into your apartment, it automatically manages your apartment temperature and your lights. It automatically knows what you might have a tendency for. Maybe it's a heart attack or diabetes, and it's giving you those nudges in real time so that you can go and see your general practitioner, for example. So the cognitive city is precisely that, and I think we'll see that in Neom and several other cities, including Singapore, which is real-time adaptive behavior for a particular citizen. And that's a very new concept. At Addo, we've already been doing that for large corporations. Don't get me wrong. In the US, for several of our clients, we are doing precisely this. And it's such a pleasure for me to now see that it's being done at the city level as well.
Excellent. I'm conscious of the time. We're 8 minutes away from the hour. So I want to leave some space perhaps for some of the questions that have come through. And a question, as expected, a theme that's come through is the impact of AI. So it's come in more than one way. So in one instance, it's the impact of AI on employment. How do we see that in our sector? And also in a different manner, it came through as how do we integrate AI into the C-suite? And are there any pain points in doing that? AI, data analytics, and so on. Do you have any comments on either one, Aisha or Abdullah? Maybe Aisha, we go first on your end.
I'll take
Okay, yeah, I can talk.
or
Or
Oh,
Abdullah.
please go ahead.
go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead. I mean, the way I see AI as an executive, basically, I don't think AI will ever replace humans, but people, or our workers or staff members, or our people basically that use AIs will definitely be ahead from people that are not using AI. AI will create efficiency in every level of our work, from the planning to the design to the execution. And the faster that people implement it and start using it, the faster organizations that they will become. This is my quick take on AI and that topic.
Yes.
Aisha, you
Yeah, no,
can go ahead.
absolutely. Thank you. I can talk about the main, like moving the C-suite over the tipping point. I think this comes really to what I was describing earlier, that we do a lot at Addo AI. Um, my job and my co-founder's job is to go in and really explain to the C-suite, not in technical, geeky, nerdy language, but really address their pain points. Here's what people want to know. How is it going to address my pain point? Do I have the talent, or can you help me implement it? What is it going to cost? How much is it? How long is it going to take? And what is tangible benefit? Tangible benefit means if I'm going to put in artificial intelligence to automate my customer service, how do I know it's working? And so there are metrics, there are KPIs that you measure by. For example, you would say that you should measure your time to resolution. It took 30 seconds, now it takes 20 seconds for them to, that's a significant difference because you can answer more customer questions. I was able to do sentiment analysis automatically, and if somebody's frustrated, I can hand them over to a real customer service agent. I'm using customer service agents, I'm giving them an AI assistant so that when someone asks a complex questions, the knowledge AI assistant actually gives them the answer so that they can fully focus on the particular customer discussion. And after the customer discussion is done, the AI is listening and automatically summarizing the notes. By the way, there are many large language models out there that you can do that. We are certainly helping a lot of clients with customer service automation, and then send in the summary and send in the notes. And so the whole journey of a customer as they go through the customer service experience is fundamentally changed. And that's how the board and CEOs understand the value. They're reading about the hype, but they need to connect the dots with the real outcomes. Then you say, look, it's going to take 6 months, it's going to be 3-month increments. You need to buy this particular platform. You need to connect the data from your Salesforce and your other CRM and your logs from Avaya or other places. And this is the team that's required. You can hire them for X amount, or you can work with us for Y amount. And they have a game plan. And that's why the roadmap and the executive education is so important. And it always works because they're logical businessmen and businesswomen, and all they're looking for is business benefit.
Fantastic. In closing, before we go, I have one more question to both of you. Just to give a background, perhaps, to the audience here, can you tell me more about your experience in YPO? What did you see was beneficial to you? How did you benefit from it, whether yourself, your spouse, your community, your children, your family? Maybe we can start first with you, Aisha.
And YPO has been amazing. I have not only met YPO, I'm based in Singapore, and also we have a lot of people coming in from across the region, but I've also been part of the women group, business leaders group in Asia and then globally now for my year, the year that I joined. And there's just so much information that we share with each other. The events in particular where YPO leaders will talk about their experience, whether it is related to manufacturing or whether it's related to healthcare. I have learned an enormous amount, not to mention the amount of support that I've had as a CEO and a businesswoman, and just knowing that someone else understands what I'm going through. It's been invaluable, and I'm really, really proud and happy to be part of the network.
I would add to that, since I'm finishing my second year as a YPO member, it's been an incredible journey already. The quality of the learning resources, whether it's the forums that you attend, the people that you meet, how easy sharing is, and how well facilitated sharing of knowledge is, and it's been incredible. So I could say, I comfortably say, what I learned the last 2 years is way more than maybe I learned the last 10 years. So it's been a completely incredible journey, and I'm looking forward. I have young kids now, and I hear from fellow YPO members that there's a tremendous amount of resources also for YNG, the young generation, basically, and also that's incredible. So yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be part of the YPO community, and it's the kind of community that pushes you to give more back to. So it's amazing.
Fantastic. I mean, you both, as you talked about YPO, echoed my own sentiments and experience, whether myself, my spouse, or my little kids as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you for the time that you've offered, from your life today on this call. Aisha and Abdullah, thank you very much for your time. And to the audience, thank you for spending the time with us on this webinar today. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by sharing it with your friends and connections. And don't forget to follow us. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, all over the social media, I suppose. So you can be in touch with us to attend to future episodes. On this end, this is Riad Bsaibes, and this was YPO Presents as the experts. And I thank you again for your time and for watching. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Abdullah.
Thanks, everyone.